All right, we're here with the Spider-Man Brand New Day spoiler review. um, it's quite a bit I do want to say about it. So I guess I'll kind of go in order of how it goes. So it starts off with the good shots of him swinging, seeing everything, blah blah blah, getting the two villains. Well, Warden too. He's basically takes out Tombstone, takes out Scorpion. He takes out uh what's that other spider villain? I can't remember his name. It's either him or just some other people from the hand, which he does also take out the hand. Um, kind of going through him, basically going through the next 4 years after he does the lose memory make everybody lose their memories and things like that. And he's kind of seeing Ned from time to well, I think he's looking at Ned's videos, and then he ends up seeing Ned in the shop one time, and he follows him basically to see what was going on. Sees that they're in a new place. MJ shows up. Blah blah blah. They do a little thing from the trailer. He sees she has a boyfriend now. He leaves. He basically goes into this cocoon thing from the movie, from the trailer, and finds out he's starting to become like Toby's Spider Man. And one thing I didn't like about this is that when that was happening, he didn't make any reference to it. Well, he did actually. He said Spider Man number two, but I think I think that was the joke to mix between that. But I felt like he would have instantly did it. He said that later on in the movie, so I was like, why did it take him so long to reference Toby's Spider Man? I would have thought that would have been like the first thing he did was like, what the hell? I'm like Spider Man number one or Spider Man number two. Instantly, he didn't do that until like a little bit later on. But I mean, obviously, that's nothing to like. Oh, whoa! I need to lower the grade for this movie and blah blah. It wasn't anything like that. Um, there was uh the things with Punisher. That was really done. It was really done well. He pulled out one launcher and they don't show this in the trailer, which is obviously that why would you? But he pulls out one of the grenade launchers. Tom pulls it out, webs it up at the top, and he's like, haha. And he pulls out another one. That's when he basically shoots him. And I was like, yeah, that's actually funny. They had a lot of funny scenes together that everybody was laughing to. And yeah, I felt like their chemistry on this whole thing was good. So I want to get to before I get to Sadie Sink, um, I'm going to get to Hulk. So Hulk, Bruce Banner shows up as a professor and he comes talking to him. And he basically like they're talking about the inhibitor to basically block the mutant gene and the mutation, I should say, not mutant gene. That's X-Men. The mutation gene and Peter because he's having an issue with the arachnid DNA overtaking his because he's evolving and allowing motions to control him. So they do that, and he's like, I know you're not a student here. He's like, no, I'm a graduate student. He's like, I know he's not, but okay. They kind of go on. Um, the times that he's on screen is okay, is cool, and then the time that Hulk is on screen is cool. So what they did with Hulk is basically they started with him being controlled, and then I'm gonna say Sadie Sink's character is Jean, so everybody knows that. So basically, she loses control because of him getting slammed around, and then he gets hit with one of the blaster things that Frank throws at him because Frank, and Spider Man are all fighting. Well, him and Frank, Spider Man and Frank are fighting Hulk, and he throws one of the things at him and shoots it, blows him up, and he bangs his head again. So she loses control of him. and then he goes back to himself, but then he loses control of himself and he turns into the Hulk we've all been waiting for. And I was like, oh, it's a huge difference because you see him as um Bruce Banner being like the smart Hulk. You see him as a smart Hulk when when Jean's controlling him, and then when she loses him and he turns into the real Hulk, you're like, oh, he got huge. He's like the Hulk from Edward Norton huge, and I was like, oh, okay, hold up, a lot taller, a lot more veinier, bigger muscles and everything. It's just total animal. I was like, okay, this is the Hulk we've been waiting for. I was so happy to see that. I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, again, I was one of the ones that was skeptical. Like, I don't know if he's gonna do it. It's gonna be like this. It could just be a pump fake that they're doing in the trailer. I was like, okay, whatever. We'll wait to see. He did his thing, so I was like, all right, cool. I don't like how he was able to calm down so fast, just because he's like, it's me, Peter. But it also ties into the thing of Hulk doesn't forget. So I was like, okay, I'm a little upset about it, but I'm like, I'm not that upset about it because it's like that's a factual thing. The Hulk doesn't forget, but I guess he kind of did until he was reminded that Spider-Man is Peter. But he listened to him call out for Bruce. So I'm like, I don't know if it's that or if he just Bruce took more control and let go. But yeah, they take Bruce basically. He was beating the hell out of Spider-Man. he was whooping that dude. Even when he was trying to contain him, he's like, nah. And Spider-Man tried to come up and punch him. He's like, he was contained, and he was also just like, nope. He broke that junk. I was like, oh my goodness. Like the speed he moved at to stop that punch, it felt flash like because it was instant. Like his fist was right here, and he ran up at him. His fist was right here. He just said, nope. It just broke it. I was like, hey, this is Hulk speed from the first Hulk we ever seen. I was like, all right, y'all cook with this one. I'm gonna give y'all Hulk, but I just don't like how he gave up at the end. He basically, once he was about to beat the hell out of Peter, and he was like, Bruce, it's me, Peter, basically, and he was like started to calm down, and he was being held back by all the building that was like webbed to him, and then the building starts to break down, and he's like holding on, and he just starts to gain more consciousness. He lets go, falls down his Hulk, and gets carried away as Bruce in the ambulance. And I was like, okay, like I just didn't like that part. I felt like there should have been a more of a fight, but I also feel like you can't drag that on. So I was like, I don't like it, but I don't hate it. So I was like, cool, whatever. Um, but I was just glad. I was really glad to see a Raging Hulk come back. It was done well. I'll say that. Now, before I get to actually, yeah, before I get to the things that I've noticed in the movie, like background stuff, I'm gonna get on Sadie Sink's character and Jean and the things I didn't really like or think was done well. One, they don't mention her being a mutant. Um, Two, her backstory. They introduced her sister Sarah as someone that is just like her, and I'm like, and that's what I was talking about in my review. I was like, I remember seeing something about her before, and then I looked up, so I read one of the comics that she was in, and I also did some more research and looked at her stuff, and I was like, okay, I kind of understand what she is. And then after the movie, I went back and looked again just to like make sure I wasn't tripping, and I was like, yeah, she's not supposed to have powers yet. Like she's supposed to be a human, and then get powers later on after being brought back to life by somebody. I can't remember the name, Atlantis or something like that. So I was like, I guess. I mean, you want to create a different story, sure, but I was like, all right, whatever. It wasn't that big of a deal to me because Sarah Gray is not a big character, so I was like, whatever. Um, I just didn't like that they didn't mention she was a mutant, and I'm like, oh, we were past that already. But yeah, and the fact that there's only her, there's no other mutants around. I'm like, so what's going on here? She just randomly shows up out of nowhere. I was like, okay, sure. Uh, that and I didn't like how trying to remember how she was basically after everything. I didn't like how she just was like gone. She was just like, yeah, I'm getting on the bus and I'm leaving. It's like you're not gonna do nothing else. Like you're not gonna hang like show up and do something like or stay around and it just felt like it was too quick to just like after she almost murked the dude from the organization, the Department of Damage Control, and then it was just like, yeah, that's it. I was like, okay, but I did like how she used her power, kind of, just because she's young and she doesn't have control really that much. Up until then, how she was basically taking over people, and like kind of transferring piece by piece to wherever she was trying to get to. How she executed the voices for those, like how she executed like controlling, well, how the actors executed like pretending like she was controlling them, especially Zendaya. Zendaya actually did really good at pretending to be controlled and being somebody else. I was like, okay, I ain't never seen that from you before. I was like, all right, this is pretty good. That's pretty good acting. I was like, I like that. That was really good. Same with Frank. He got controlled, and when Hulk actually became the Raging Hulk, and what did she? She said something when she took over Frank, and Frank was she was just looked weird because he had his back straight and everything, like it was like he was walking like a woman. He was like basically said, have fun with Hulk, and basically just walked off holding the box, and it just looked like Gene was controlling Frank, and I was like, he did a really good job at portraying that, and I was like, yeah, that's funny, but in perfect acting. Um, I will also say that the way that her sister Sarah got a message to her was basically at the end of her life, and she said VMAX, and everybody, the whole half the movie, they were like, "What's VMAX?" But everybody was like, I don't know." Even the guy from Damage Control, I don't know. When she's like getting the same treatment her sister was, and she's like looking up, she sees Event Max, but the ENT was just like flapping over, so it just looked like VMAX because it was the last memory, and she just pushed it out and portrayed it to her. So that's what she saw, and that made Jean go crazy, and she had all the stuff in her brain just flying off, and they were like, "We can't stop this anymore." Basically, she was just growing more powerful because of her rage, I'm assuming, and also the thing helping her use her power without her trying to like do it herself. And it kind of showed a slight glimpse of like purplish orange, which is Phoenix, more so orange to purple, but she does get some little hint of purple. Uh, if I'm not mistaken, like some of the original stuff, but it's like very little orange, but more purple, and the things firing off in her brain. So I was like, huh, okay. That was one thing I noticed, and I was like, all right, cool. That's good. Wonder what they're gonna do with this. But yeah, that was part of that, and I that was like bad parts and good parts I liked about her character. But I will say, I don't know what they're gonna do with her after this because it's like, do you really want a kid Jean around this? It's like it just didn't really make sense. But for like the going into Doomsday and Secret Wars, it wouldn't make sense. But what else? Oh, so some of the things that I've noticed, as I mentioned in my previous review video, I'll give more details to it now. Peter's basically he gets shot by on it, Frank, with a looks like to be a 50 cal sniper, and basically he saves Jean from getting hit by it. But instead of going and pulling her in, he walks up. He kind of like it's in slow motion, but so it looks like he walks. But he basically goes up, grabs her, and turns. And I'm like, Spider Man wouldn't do that. He would just, since he had the sense while she was in his brain, he would basically just be like, and pull her over to him to dodge the entire thing because he was close enough to do it from down here and pull her and get her out the way. So I was like, I didn't care for that. Um, but yeah, when he gets shot and it's basically like a building that gets lit up in red and blue, and in the back left, there is another building that's in other colors: purple, green, and like a golden dark brown. And I was like, oh shoot. I was like, okay, we're getting a hobgoblin, it looks like. I was like, all right. I felt like I was the only one in the theater that caught that. I was like, oh. And nobody else said a word. And I was like, okay. I was like, nobody else caught that? I was like, all right, well, looks like Hobgoblin is gonna be around at some point, which ties into the next 2 points that I saw. Um, because it could be either. I don't know, but I'm gonna go. I guess I'll go in order for this one too. So first thing you see is when Peters gets to that party that they have. Uh, Ned shows him the board basically of who he thinks is Spider Man, and one of the kids does look like Tom, but it's not him. But then he flips a picture up, and it's like one is Flash, and the other one is the teacher, and it looks like they are just missing, not anywhere. So I was like, okay, is Flash about to become Hobgoblin? And I was like, huh, okay. But later on at the end of the movie, um, at the very end of the movie, Peter walks in that bodega and he sees Ned sitting down. He's about to he grabs a flower and he's like, you know what? I'm gonna say something because I should have. Because Zendaya tells him to say something. He tells her well, he doesn't tell her. She finds the note of that he was supposed to get her years ago. Well, I'm assuming 4 years ago. He never did, and they do their whole thing. And she's like, basically tells him you should tell him, and he never does until the end, the very end. And he basically is like, I'm Peter. Shakes his hand. They do the little doop, 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 and they do all the other thing that they did before. And Ned is just doing it without knowing that he's doing it. Like he doesn't, he notices, but he's like, what am I doing? But he's still doing it. And then it just comes up into his head. He's like, oh, he's like, Peter. And then it cuts off. I was like, I knew it. I was like, I knew it. So, as we know, Ned is part of a magical family, like Doctor Strange, but not like a family from Doctor Strange, but like his family comes from sorcerers, I believe. So he's always had that a part of him, and I think that ties into what just happened there, to where it's basically he did something that reminded him of the past, and the spell slowly wore off because his brain did something with the magic. So I think that it slowly wore off for him, was about to start slowly wearing off to where he remembers him. But Zendaya does not remember him at all. So what I think is about to happen is either Ned is about to become a sorcerer or use some type of magic to reverse the thing for Zendaya's character, for MJ, or he's going to become Hobgoblin, but he's going to be the magical one. Like, and I was like, huh. I was like, all right, so which one's going to be Hobgoblin? Because it has to be one of those two. You don't show those colors for that in that background and then not say or end up bringing in a Hobgoblin for the next movie. So hopefully it's one of those two. I do believe it might be Ned. I think he has to lose some weight, get into a better shape to play that character. Uh, what else was it? I can't remember what it was. It was something else in the movie that hinted at another character, but I can't remember who it was. I can't remember what it was, excuse me. But I will say there was one thing I was disappointed in is that there was no continuation or anything of showing the symbiote. Because I think we are about time to get this guy. It is way too long to not see him in MCU. We got to get Venom in here. And I'm like, I figured one of the freaking after credits would show it, but it didn't. So I was like, oh my gosh. And speaking of the after credit, it was the app that Ned made to track Spider-Man. So basically, it's like we can't track this Spider-Man. The app pops up and saying they can't track him, and then it goes off into something that starts glitching. It's like a dark area, and then it's like, oh, we found this Spider-Man. It's clearly going to be Miles moving into that multiverse, or Miles being in that multiverse already. I don't know, but it looked. I was a little disappointed at the after credit. I was like, all right, we already knew this was going to happen at some point. We've seen that crossover within Into the Spider Verse or Across the Spider Verse, and then also we've seen his uncle in I think the second Spider Man movie. If I'm not mistaken. I can't remember which one it was, but yeah, I didn't care for that. I was like, all right, whatever. But yeah, it was quite a. Oh, I think I said this before in my other review, but I didn't care about Frank in parts of the movie because he showed to be a little too soft, and I was like, that's not the Frank we just seen and everything, especially in that one shot film that they did on Disney Plus. I was like, I didn't see a hardcore Frank. I saw him with the he was doing that when he was shooting that Hulk, but um he felt more relaxed and more calm with Spider-Man. And I'm like, I get it. He can't be like, too hardcore because of what rating the movie is out and knowing that he can't beat Spider-Man. It's just like he did cuss sometimes. He's got the said I think he said asshole or something like that, and then he also got wed up before he said my effort. Um, but he was just a little too soft for me at some most of the time. But he was also kind of like I think he was kind of opening up to him basically because he said it from the beginning. I think like the second time we see him, he was like he thought he was a kid anyway. But then once he does see that he's a kid, I think it kind of softened him at the end even more. And their chemistry is good because he's like, did I just see you cry? And he's like, no, everybody started laughing because seeing the Punisher cry for accidentally almost killing him was kind of like you never would have thought you would see him cry, but yeah, it was pretty funny. That was like one thing I didn't like about the Punisher. He just felt a little bit too soft. He should have been more hardcore, but not caring, but not like being too caring. But yeah, yeah, I gave it a 3.75 out of 5. I thought it was a really good movie. I just had certain issues with it. Um, Nothing like huge, but yeah, it was still a good movie. I think that's about it for the spoiling stuff. I don't really have too much else I could think of right now. So if y'all got something to say, let me know in the comments, or if you have anything to rebut against me or rebuttal against me, I should say. Uh, put that in the comments too. I think that I hit on some of the important stuff and then some of the stuff that I don't know if everybody else seen. So if you've seen more, or if you want to counter against what I saw, let me know in the comments and make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next video. Peace.